Our family has been in the adoption community for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, maybe a little bit longer. And over the course of those years, we have gotten asked so many times, why are we not adopting kids in America? We have gotten asked, why are we not adopting black kids? And we have gotten asked, why are we not adopting little boys? I think there's a very small percentage of people who ask those questions are asking out of genuine curiosity and wonder, but I think the majority of the people ask out of spite and ask out of judgment, and so I'm going to answer a lot of those questions for you today. Hey guys, welcome back. I'm excited to have you here, and I'm just going to give myself a pat on the back because, you know, the topic that I've been saying we're going to talk about for the past 3 to 4 weeks, we're finally talking about it today. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited to share some wisdom and perspective from the insider, from the one who's actually walking out this adoption journey and adoption life, honestly. But before we get into that, I wanted to give y'all a quick update on the process within our Bulgaria adoption that we just started. I guess it was mid-November. Paperwork has been moving along very slowly, but I'm excited to say that our dossier, which if you don't know what that is, it is just honestly a big old stash of paperwork that has to be notarized and apostilled by your state or by the federal government, and that is sent over to the country in which you're adopting, which is Bulgaria for us. And once they process that, you are officially in their system and you are ready to be presented possibly with children to adopt. And so we have completed the dossier. It's in review with our agency. Actually, I've been waiting to hear from them all week. I'm expecting it should be done out of review and getting ready to actually go in snail mail to Bulgaria. And so what that means is we're fixing to pay another large fee, a few $1,000s for the dossier payment. And it's just kind of how payments align with adoption agencies. This is kind of one of the steps where you can expect a large payment. And so we're going to get ready to send that money over to our adoption agency and get that dossier over to Bulgaria, get it translated, and then we're hopefully within the Lord's timing, we will be presented with possible future daughters for our family, future family members for the Feltz family. So I'm really excited, but really scared, really nervous, really anxious, and I have no idea what the time frame for our Bulgaria adoption will look like. Y'all know that we are also adopting from China, and that's our main priority. So we are literally walking blindly and just trusting the Lord's timing. So that's the update on Bulgaria. Nothing super exciting for y'all to hear, but super exciting for myself and for our family that we have kind of completed a huge milestone within any international adoption process. So yeah, I'm excited. Before we dive into today's topic, I've got one more thing to share with y'all, and it's a sponsorship by Aura, and I'm really excited about this sponsorship. Y'all know, like I said a while ago, we're getting ready to pay a large sum of money to our adoption agency. We have been paying, government entities money, third parties money. I mean, adoptions are just full of fees. Unfortunately, it's a financial burden, but thankfully the Lord has always provided for our family while we're on these journeys and beyond. But I don't know if you're like me, it's a little weird. It's a little scary to be sending that much money via the internet, right? And I know that a lot of these websites are secure and whatnot, but it's still a little like, okay, I'm putting all my information out there and I'm sending large chunks of money. Like, is someone going to try to hack me or something like that? So that's where today's sponsorship comes in. It's with Aura, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. Like I said, the sponsorship is with Aura, and let me give you a little peace of mind of what they kind of offer. Aura is a company that will identify data brokers online, and if you're like me, you don't know what data brokers are. Well, they are people that make money by selling your personal information to telemarketers, spammers, robocallers, things like that. And if you are like me, the robocallers that we receive weekly is so infuriating, and I always wondered, how did they receive my phone number? Now I know. So Aura will identify these data breakers that are sharing your personal information and automatically opt out on your behalf. Aura will also monitor your emails, your passwords to make sure that there isn't a breach off of the internet. And one more aspect that I really liked about Aura is if you have children in the home, they offer amazing parental controls such as focused screen time settings, internet search history, and Aura can also filter, block, and monitor websites and apps. If you're like me, that will certainly give you a peace of mind as a parent. So yeah, Aura offers so many internet safety tool apps all in one, all with such ease to use. So thank you, Aura, so much for sponsoring today's video. Y'all, don't forget to go check out the link in the description box below. It's really simple. It's aura.com/Ashley. Kind of a mouthful, but if you click on that link, you can actually get 2 weeks free, and I think that you will be surprised at what you find on there and how many data brokers actually have your information. So y'all definitely go check that out, and thank you again, Aura, for sponsoring today's video. As I said earlier, we get asked often, why are we not adopting kids in America? Why are we not adopting black children, and why are we not adopting little boys? So I'm going to answer all of those questions. I'm going to give you our perspective, but I also asked a lot of other seasoned adoptive families, why do they choose to adopt internationally as opposed to here in America? And I'm going to share some of their perspectives and their mindsets on that topic. While this is our YouTube platform and you primarily hear just from myself and Stan and our convictions, our beliefs, and our journey in life, and I think what we have to offer you is very wise, but I wanted you to hear from other adoptive families and their perspectives as well, just so you can see, like, okay, this is not just an Ashley and Stan thing, like this is like across the board with a lot of adoptive families. So I have just a few friends. I'm going to kind of share what they said to me about this topic, and so we're just going to jump right in. So I thought about putting this at the end of the video, but I think I just really want to put it at the beginning of the video because I think it's what needs to be heard the loudest and the clearest, is that so many people ask, why are you not adopting children here in America? There are so many kids here in America that need adoption. Why do you choose to go to someone else's country? And like I said, a lot of people ask it out of snarkiness. Very, very few ask it out of genuine curiosity. Regardless of their motives, it is a very ignorant question, and I didn't realize how ignorant of a question it is until the more I get into the adoption world and I'm seeing what the orphan crisis looks like and what these kids are living day in and day out. It boggles my mind that people think that children here in America have more value than kids in another country. My value, your value, these orphans' value comes from Christ, not their geographical location, not the color of their skin, and not the gender. Just not. Their value comes from Christ, and they were created with a purpose, by purpose, on purpose. As cheesy as that little cliche sounds, it's the truth. And so that trumps all these other reasons that I'm fixing to talk about. But at the end of the day, a child's geographical location, a child's color of their skin, and a child's gender should bear no weight on whether they are deserving of a family or not. And if you are asking those questions out of genuine curiosity, that's totally fine. But the majority of them are not. And it's very frustrating when people ask those who are doing something about the orphan crisis. And when I say that, I hope that that doesn't come off arrogantly as like, huh, I'm doing something and you're not, because that's not what I mean. What I mean is I just don't understand the ego and the audacity of people to ask adoptive families who were choosing the hard. Like, they are choosing the hard. It didn't just happen upon them. They see value in these orphans' lives, and they are choosing to say yes to that child. I don't understand why people question where, when, and why. Like, you should just be saying, good job, thank you for doing what you're doing. I personally can't do it because of XYZ, but thank you for doing what you're doing. That's all you should be saying, right? So for us personally, if you haven't been around here on our YouTube channel for any length of time, and you may not know our stories, you definitely need to go backwards and go watch Mika's adoption story and Isabel's adoption story, and I'll put tags right here for you so that you can kind of see how the Lord led us to them. But for us, when we knew that the Lord was calling us to adoption, at the time, we honestly had never looked into domestic adoption or international adoption. So we were clueless on what domestic adoptions and international adoption processes look like. The Lord very clearly showed me that there was a little girl in the Philippines that we were to adopt. He gave me a vision of her. And so that is why we chose international adoption. It was a calling that the Lord had on our family specifically. So we didn't even have time to weigh the pros and cons on what we wanted to do as far as domestic or international. It was just the Lord said, hey, there's a little girl in the Philippines. You need to bring her home. And that's what we did. So fast forward to when we brought Isabel home from China in 2018, we saw Isabel's picture on a Facebook advocacy page, and my friend had actually posted her picture, and the Lord worked on my heart for 2 weeks without staying, even knowing that He was working on my heart, and it was very clear that we were to bring Isabel into our family. Again, I didn't really know anything about the adoption processes in China or anything like that. It was clearly the Lord was, hey, you're to bring this little girl into your family. And so that is how we were led to international adoption, quite honestly. So my friend Lindsay, she had a great perspective on the thoughts between international adoption over domestic adoption. And she had a really great point, which is, here in America, infant domestic adoptions kind of trump older kids adoption, special needs adoption, what have you. There are so many waiting families for the infant adoptions, right? Everyone wants an infant, wants a baby. And so there's just not enough infants who are up for adoption, but there are a plethora of adoptive families waiting to adopt an infant. Whereas internationally, there aren't even remotely close to being enough adoptive families waiting for children in other countries. The orphan crisis is astronomical, and there are so many orphans waiting and not near enough families. So the ratio of families to children is completely flipped when you're looking at domestic and international adoption. And so I thought that was a really good point, and that is something that she discovered when she entered into the adoption journey with her family. Another reality of what international adoption looks like that I don't really think that you see here in America with domestic adoptions. Now, please understand, I know that there are orphans here in America that have lived a terrible crap life, like terrible. So I completely acknowledge that. However, the norm in these other countries, the norm that these children live in institutions and orphanages is 1,000 times worse. 1,000 times worse. They live in conditions that are extremely poor. Many are malnourished, many are neglected. If you have special needs that they just don't know how to deal with, they will literally just leave you in a baby bed and leave you to fend for yourself. We have seen it firsthand. That really is not seen too much over here in America. There's not orphanages here in America. There's some foster facilities and foster homes and things like that, but there's not orphanages. So the kids here in America are not experiencing the institutional life that the kids over in other countries are experiencing day in and day out. Kids that are in orphanages in other countries, they don't have very good luck with getting a permanent family. The likelihood is that they are going to age out of the system at age 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Yes, many countries will have kids aging out of being eligible for adoption at 14 years old. And what happens then is the majority of them are not then giving resources and aid to help them get established out in the real world as far as finding a job, finding a home, finding stability and safety. They are literally just thrown out onto the streets. And that leaves the vast majority of them falling into prostitution, drugs, living on the streets, homeless. A despicable life that these kids of no choice of their own are forced to live. You are not going to find that here in America. You are not going to find these kids who age out of the system being thrown out literally onto the streets. Does it happen here and there? I don't know, maybe. I can't speak for 100% of the cases, but I know that it is extremely common that is what happens with international adoption when these kids age out. And I just need you to close your eyes, and I need you to think real quick. Put yourself in the shoes of a 15-year-old little girl who has no foster family, no one that's been present in their life. They're not having families come visit them at the orphanage and giving them birthday gifts or like taking care of them. None of that. Like, imagine yourself at 15 years old being thrown out into the streets, fending for yourselves. That is what children internationally who age out of the system are faced with. And I honestly can't fathom it. I think also a common misconception that I wonder if people have when they ask that question of like, why are you not adopting in America? They are assuming that domestic adoptions are a lot less expensive than international adoptions, and that's just not the case. Domestic adoptions can cost anywhere from, $15,000 to $20,000 all the way up. It depends on how many legal fees and things like that. So domestic adoptions here in America are still very expensive. International adoptions, you're typically going to look at roughly $30,000 to $40,000 for an international adoption. It can vary a little bit depending on the country and such, but that's typically what you're going to look at. So this concept that they think domestic adoptions are just less of a financial burden than international adoptions is completely false. Now, can you foster to adopt? Yes. I know here in Louisiana, you can foster to adopt with literally no money up, honestly. But the thing with fostering is it's not for adoption. Do a lot of fostering situations lead to adoption? Absolutely. But the goal of fostering is reunification of the birth family and the child. That's the idea, that's the concept behind fostering. It's not to ultimately adopt. And so a lot of families who are choosing international adoption and not choosing fostering is because they are looking for a child to place permanently in their family, not to have children come and go based on did reunification happen, or after years are they then put up for adoption because reunification failed. So that's a big difference in fostering to adopt and choosing international adoption. International adoption, that's permanent. Fostering is not permanent, and that is not the goal. Adoption is not the goal of fostering. So when I asked about this topic and why did adoptive families choose international over domestic, I had a lot of people just say, this is how the Lord led us. Like it's again, they didn't sit down and weigh the pros and cons of domestic versus international. It was just, this is how the Lord wired their heart. This is how the Lord burdened their heart. Many of them, knew when they were very little that they were going to adopt one day. And so that honestly trumps anything else. The journeys that the Lord puts us all on is so different, and it's unique. And we cannot look at our journey and compare it to your journey and wonder, why are you not doing things like we do things, and vice versa. We have to know and understand that each family is making the decisions best for their family with the Lord's guidance. And that's what I heard over and over from in the responses from the adoptive families, is this is just how the Lord led us. I can't explain it to you. It's just how it was. And I did have a couple people say, you know, we tried to fight it. We tried to fight his calling on our life for international adoption because it's scary. And I think international adoptions for so long had a big stigma. And there were some unethical things that used to go on and may still go on, I'm sure. But they were like, we fought against it, man. We would try fostering, we would try a domestic adoption, and it would fail. And like, we would try to do things our way, and it always ended up back to where the Lord first instructed us. So I think, you know, wise words from me is, if the Lord has instructed you to do something, just do it. Don't try to go like do your own thing, because you're going to circle back exhausted, tired, maybe out of resources, and you're going to get back to that place where you're like, okay, God, I should have just said yes to what you were saying 3 years ago. We've had a question asked, why are we not adopting black kids? And you know, that comment is always with a little you know, it's not out of genuine curiosity. You can tell the comments, and you can tell in which tone they're asking and why they're asking. And it goes back to you shouldn't be choosing adoption based off of a child's race or skin color or geographical location or gender. You should be choosing adoption because you want to give a child a family. You should be choosing adoption out of obedience to Christ and because you want to give a child a family. It should not matter their race, color, or anything else. And if you are choosing a child based on their color, I would check your heart. I would check your motives. Yeah. So we have no problem adopting black children, yellow children, purple children. I don't know if you've seen Mika after being out in the sun all day. That girl's got some dark skin, very dark skin. Skin color does not matter in our home. What matters is we're giving a child a family. That's it. And if you're looking at adoptive families with those judgmental questions, I'm going to beg you to please stop. Just please stop, because your questions are speaking more about what's in your heart than what the adoptive family has chosen and has chosen. As far as girls, we have chosen girls because our first two adoptions, that's clearly how the Lord led us. It was very specific. Michaela and Isabel were to come into our family. With our third adoption of Lily Grace, which she's still in China, we're waiting to complete that. It was a very subtle, but I think a very direct calling from the Lord that we were to bring her into our family, and she just happened to be a girl. Now, with this fourth adoption in Bulgaria, we did specifically choose a little girl because of housing and rooming. And again, I don't think that that's one of those things that people think about when they start asking those questions, is they just see we're in our fourth adoption of a little girl, so we must hate little boys. No, there are certain regulations and rules you have to follow as far as rooming when you're getting home study approved and things like that. And so we cannot mix little boys and little girls in rooms throughout the adoption process. And so for that reason, we don't really have room to put a little boy with my Jackson and Grayson, but we have room to put another little girl, which is why we've chosen another girl. But we love little boys, and hopefully we'll adopt a little boy. I don't really know, but again, gender shouldn't matter. It's just the only thing that should matter is that child needs a family, and we're giving that child a family. That's it. So those were the highlights in which I wanted to touch. My words, I'm stumbling over my words because I have so much up here, and it's such a topic that like I want to articulate well, but I think sometimes when I put the pressure on myself to articulate well, I do worse because I feel like I'm stumbling over my words so much today. But those were the highlights and the main reasons that I received from other adoptive families and why they chose international adoption over domestic adoption. And I hope that me sharing that with you will shed some light on it. I don't think it's going to shut down any of the people asking with ill intent, but I think it does share perspective for those who are genuinely curious, or maybe they're looking and they're trying to decide, do we want to adopt domestically or internationally? Hopefully that sheds a little bit of light, but at the end of the day, the Feltz family isn't for domestic and isn't for international. We are for adoption, whatever that looks like for your family. So what I want you to take away from here is that every child is deserving of a family, and if a child is in need, just say yes and just adopt. But if you have any questions, just drop it in the comment section below. I read every single question, every single comment, and I do my best to answer everyone. But thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to go check out that Aura link in the description box below. Super thankful for that sponsorship today, and I hope that you find value in it as well. Until next time, we will see you on the next vlog. Bye.